My first memory is when we had the Talbot Street Hummingbird. He showed up down there a couple times, several times actually, because I think he'd already moved to Nashville, but he'd come back here because he had a lot of family. He would hang out down there. He kind of seemed like he liked it down there. And then sooner or later, we finally booked him a solo show at the Hummingbird. I think the shows were, of course, they were packed, you know. I think the second time Hiatt played there was when we were going to close. It was going to be the closing night. And I opened up I did a set before John. But before we played, there was a girl from Crazy Owls who, I think her name was Betty, and she had spinal meningitis. And she was in, I think at the time it was General Hospital or something in Indianapolis. And she was in isolation. And somebody got the idea that John Hiatt and I would go out there and play some music for her. Because she worked at Crazy Owls, I think, was her thing. And so she would have been around. Strugglers played there 6 nights a week sometimes. And John played there. And so I guess somebody got the idea it'd be wonderful if we'd go out there and play for her. And so somebody showed up with a little bug Volkswagen. So it's me and John and 2 fairly good-sized guitars in the cases and squeezing in the back, and Pat O'Hara, who was Jack O'Hara's brother, who was, you know, part of the scene back then, and whoever was driving. And we went out to the hospital, and they set us up so that she could still be in isolation, but still hear us play somehow. And we played, and I did a couple of my original songs, and John actually played guitar along with me. And he said, "Man, that was a cool song," you know. I felt good about it because he was already kind of happening, you know, starting to happen pretty good. And so we did that, and then went back and did this final show of the Hummingbird. Well, it was a long night. We all hung out, you know. And then when we opened the new Hummingbird, he played there a couple different times in the 5 years we were there. Of course, by then we had this much bigger stage and PA system, and he never played. He always played by himself and just pack it in, you know. And all the young musicians would show up watching him. You know, he was just the local hero, and I saw it that way. And you know, those shows were pretty great, and we'd all wind up at the Alley Cat later on, where didn't matter where you played in Indianapolis. Some of you went to the Alley Cat. I went way too many times, I'm sure.